Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do questions on compound interest. These questions are from IGCSE Edexcel Maths A, higher paper. You can also use these for foundation as well. You can also use these questions for better understanding about the compound interest questions that come in GCSE Edexcel Maths, Cambridge Maths, and even O-level Maths. So without further delay, let's start with the questions. So it says, Harold bought an antique clock for £1,200. The clock increased in value by 8% per year. Find the value of the clock exactly 3 years after Harold bought the clock. Give your answer correct to the nearest pound. So the clock is increasing by 8% per year, which means initially the value of the clock is 100%. So each year it's going to be now 108%. So we multiply the principal amount, which is 1200, times the rate at which the value is increasing. So that's going to be 108 over 100. You don't write it as 108. You always write it as a fraction or a decimal. So we either write it as 108 over 100 or 1.08. Then we use the percentage as number of years it's increasing. So that's going to be 3. So now 108 divided by 100 to the power of 3. And then times that by 1200. That gives us 1511.6544. We want the answer correct to the nearest pound. That's going to be 1512 pounds. That's your answer. So to summarize it, the formula we're using is principal amount times 1 plus the rate of interest over 100 to the power of t. T is your number of years. P is your principal amount, or you can even call it initial amount. That's easier to remember. And R is your either rate of interest based on what the question is, or it's the percentage at which like the value is increasing or decreasing. So these are what the variables stand for. Then just plug in the values in the formula and find the value at which it's increased. If it was depreciation, then instead of doing 1 plus r over 100, you would do 1 minus r over 100, and everything else in the formula would remain the same. Next question says that Hamish buys a new car for $20,000. The car depreciates in value by 19% each year. Work out the value of the car at the end of 3 years, giving your answer correct to the nearest dollars. So this is exactly what I was talking about. In the previous question, they were talking about increasing the value of the object, and now they're decreasing it. Depreciation means the value has decreased. So same formula, but the only difference is now we do 1 minus r over 100 over here, and everything else remains as it is. So P is your 20,000. 1 minus 19 over 100 to the power of 3. So 19 divided by 100 is 0.19. 1 minus 0.19 is 0.81. Raise that to the power of 3 and then times the result by 20,000. That gives us 10,628.82. Give your answer correct to the nearest dollar. So that's going to be 10,629. That's your answer. Then question 7 says, Kuru invests 50,000 yen for 3 years in a savings account. She gets 2.4% per year compound interest. Work out how much money Kuru will have in her savings account at the end of 3 years. Giving your answer correct to the nearest yen. Compound interest has the same formula which we have used in the previous questions. The initial amount times 1 plus rate of interest divided by 100 to the power of t, which is number of years. So in our case, P is 50,000, R is 2.4, and T is again 3. So we need to find how much money Kuru will have in his savings account at the end of 3 years. So compound interest means that through this formula, we will get the final amount at the end of the 3 years. We won't get the interest she's earned. We get the end amount, which includes the initial amount and the interest she's earned over that amount over the 3 years. So that's going to be 50,000 times 1 plus 2.4 over 100 to the power of 3. So same thing, 2.4 divided by 100 plus 1, raise it to the power of 3, and then times the result by 50,000. So that's 53,687.0912. We want the answer correct to the nearest 10. So that's going to be 53,687. That's your final answer. Then it says Jane bought a new car for $18,000. The car depreciates in the value by 15% each year. Work out the value of the car at the end of 4 years. Give your answer correct to the nearest dollars. Similar to the question that we did previously. So 18,000 times 1 minus 15 over 100. Since it's depreciation, so we minus the percentage from 1, and that is raised to the power of 4 because the time period is 4 years. So that's going to give us 9,396.1125. Correct to the nearest dollar, it's going to be 9,396. That is your final answer. Let's say Shane invests $7,200 for 3 years in a savings account. He gets 2.5 per year compound interest. How much money will Shane have in his savings account at the end of 3 years? So once again, similar to the question we have already done. As you can see, they're not changing a lot. It's the same wording. The only thing that changes is the value. And if you understand how to solve these questions, you won't struggle at compound interest questions in your exam. So 7,200, which is the initial amount, times 1 plus 2.5 over 100, and then to the power of 3. So first we begin with dividing 2.5 by 100, then add that to 1, so that's 1.025. 1.025 is raised to the power of 3 and then multiplied by 7,200, which gives us 7,753.6125. Correct to the nearest dollar, it's going to be $7,754. That's your answer. The next question says that Teresa invests $2,000 for 3 years in a savings account. She gets 4% each year compound interest. How much money will Teresa have in her savings account at the end of 3 years? Give your answer correct to the nearest dollar. Give your answer correct to the nearest dollar. So 2,000 times 1 plus 4 over 100 to the power of 3. So 4 divided by 100 is 0.04 plus 1, 1.04 to the power of 3, and then times it by 2,000. That's going to be 2,249.728. Correct to the nearest dollar, it's going to be 2,250. That is your final answer. Then part B says Sam invested $T. The value of his investment decreased by 9% each year. At the end of the first year, the value of Sam's investment was $1,365. Work out the value of T. Now, this question is slightly different from the ones we've done in the past. In the past, they had given us the initial amount and they've asked us to find the final amount. Now they've given us the final amount and they're asking us for the initial amount. So formula is still the same. So it's going to be T, which is the initial amount that he invested, times, since it's decreasing, you do 1 minus 9 over 100. At the end of the first year, so the power is going to be 1, and that equals to 1,365. So 9 divided by 100, 0.09, and then 1 minus 0.09, which is 0.91. And then we're just going to divide 1,365 by 0.91, which gives us $1,500. So that is the amount that Sam invested initially. But the next question says that Ferozi invests 80,000 Kenyan shillings. He invests the money for 3 years at X% compound interest each year. At the end of 3 years, the total interest rate he receives is 6,151.25 Kenyan shillings. Work out the value of X. So now this one is also different. In this case, they have given us the initial amount and the final amount, but they want us to find the interest rate. So this question is different from the ones we have done in past. They've given us the initial amount, which is 80,000. So P is 80,000. Rate of interest is X. We don't know what that is. Time is 3. And if you notice, they haven't given us the final amount, they've given us the total interest he receives. So which means final amount is going to be the sum of 80,000 and the interest that he's earned. So if you notice, in compound interest, they give us the final amount as the answer. They don't give us the interest that he's earned or anyone has earned. So to find the final amount, we add the amount that he's invested and the interest that he's earned. So that's going to be 86151.25. So now we plug these values in the formula where the final amount is 86,151.25 equals to 80,000, which is the initial amount, times 1 plus x over 100 to the power of 3. So first we divide 86,151.25 by 80,000, which is 1.076890, and this is 1 plus x over 100 to the power of 3. Now we're going to take the cube root on both sides, which gives us 1.025 over here and 1 plus x over 100 over here. Cube root of a cube number eliminates the power, so the power becomes 1. Now we do 1.025 minus 1 equals to x over 100, which is 0.025. Then we cross multiply and times it by 100. So x is going to be 2.5. So if you've noticed so far, we're using the same formula in each question. And in some cases, they give us the initial amount, the interest rate, and ask us to find the final amount. In other cases, they give us the initial amount and the final amount if they want us to find the interest rate. Or they would give us the final amount and the interest rate, and they would ask us for the initial amount. So they can mix it up, but the main formula still remains the same. However, if they're asking about depreciation, then you would do 1 minus r over 100 instead of doing 1 plus r over 100. But if something's increasing in value, it's 1 plus r over 100. If it's just compound interest, it's also 1 plus r over. The next question says, Zoe invests some money for 2 years. He invests $500 with Bank A and $3,000 with Bank B. So in Bank A, amount of money invested is to the total amount of interest after 2 years is in the ratio of 20:3. And for Bank B, 4% per year compound interest for 2 years. Zoe receives more interest from Bank A than from Bank B. How much more? So let's begin with Bank A first. So in Bank A, we're investing $2,500. So if you look at the ratio, it's 20:3. So if he's investing $2,500, how can we change 20 into 2,500? So if we divide 2,500 by 20, that gives us 125, which means we multiply 125 with 20 to make it 2,500. Hence, we will also multiply 3 with 125 to get the total amount of interest that Bank A gives after 2 years. So 125 times 3 is 375. So the amount of interest Zoe earns from Bank A is 375. So interest is 375. Now moving on to Bank B. Bank B says 4% per year compound interest for 2 years. And she's investing 3,000. So we use the same formula that we used in the previous questions. 3,000 times 1 plus 4 over 100 to the power of 2. That's going to give us 3,244.8. So to calculate the interest that Bank B gives, we subtract this from the initial amount. 3,244.8 minus 3,000. So that equals to $244.8. Zoe receives more interest from Bank A, which is already proven. We need to show how much more. So for that, we do 375 minus 244.8, which gives us $130.2. So that is the amount that she earns more from Bank A compared to Bank B. And with that, we're done with questions for compound interest. If you have any confusions or if you got stuck anywhere, please leave a comment below and I'll help you out. And if you're someone who understood the topic very well from this video, please like and subscribe and share this video with your friends.